Hey, thanks for jumping into the Weekend Rewind. I'm bringing you the conversation I had with Andy Balzat from Banana Life. And the reason I'm bringing this into the Rewind this weekend is because this week I was hanging out with Andy and his brilliant team at Banana Life on Wednesday night for a really fun games night. So they brought in their clients, people they work with, and supporters of their business. And yeah, we had a blast just playing some of the games. So it was at this beautiful venue called Smoked Garage in Fortitude Valley. Upstairs, just like a beautiful dinner, drinks, and really fun games. One was Family Feud. Probably my favorite game of the evening was they had a drum at the front and they played Whitney Houston's I Will Always Love You. There's a part in that song where she sings, there's complete silence, and then you hear this drum beat go off. The game was you had to hit the drum at exactly the same time it comes on in the song. It sounds easier said than done. We were counting it. It's like a 4.5 beat. The half beat really puts people off. And I think out of all the people there, only 1 or 2 people out of 7 actually got to strike the drum at the right time. Anyway, really fun game. But this is the kind of cool stuff that Andy does. So I wanted to share that with all of you. We chatted ages ago. This is when we sort of first met while I was still working internally. So it was lovely to stay connected to Andy after all these years. Enjoy the listen. If I was to rock up to your office and chat to you and your team or the organisation that you work for, and I said, all right, guys, we're going to do some team building, what do you think the response would be? I know when you say the word sometimes it can be met with really different reactions. So some people jump up and down, they're super excited. Other people may possibly roll their eyes. Maybe they've had some bad experiences with team building. Whatever you think, I think team building is a really interesting concept. So I actually love team building and taking any opportunity I can, especially during work hours, to have fun with my peers. It seems, though, that over the years, team building has got a bit of a bad rap. I love what our guest today is doing in this space. It's next level amazing. And honestly, if you want to be in the team building business, take a look at his website because you will be inspired. His name is Andy Balzat, and he's the director and senior facilitator at Banana Life. Andy has the ridiculously adventurous background of a movie character. He's taught snowboarding in California, climbed mountains in Bolivia, DJ'd and played in bands around the world. And now he brings those unique experiences to Banana Life. Andy shares his experience working with organisations on creating effective, fun, and appealing team building activities. Welcome to the podcast, Andy Balzat.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to hang out with you. Andy's been a listener of the show for some time, reached out over Instagram. Now I'm in his awesome studios in a great part of Brisbane. There's an awesome brewery down the road, one of my favourites.
Yes.
But we won't talk about beer. Let's talk about team building. And I'd love for you to tell us a bit about your company, Banana Life, what you do, what roles and what pivots sort of happened in your career to lead you down this path. I know it didn't really start out as a team building company.
Yeah. So Banana Life started as a tourism business. So we used to take international travellers in their first week of coming to Brisbane and show them the banana life. And the best thing about Banana Life is it's appealing. And part of that whole sort of pun was showing people around and appreciating the outdoors and taking them to the beach and, spending a weekend with them. And the first time in Australia was, really exciting for them. And then we sort of realised, and given my background and study in HR and psychology and my experience in team building, that Banana Life was always going to be a corporate team building business. It was just a matter of time because we ended up getting a lot of corporate requests for our Banana Life tours, and they're just going, wow, this looks great fun. Your vibe is great. How do we get involved? And we're like, what you need is structure and what you need is activities, not just jump in the van and let's go to the beach and sightsee. Then we started developing more of our team building programs, and then we made the full switch about 3.5 years ago now.
Right. So I've got to ask the biggest difference between international travels and corporate. I mean, I'm sure there are some similarities, but let's talk about the biggest differences. Do you find that there are any?
I think the biggest difference is that you've got, our leisure travelers, they're here for leisure or they're here for study and they're just here to see everything. Whereas corporate groups, they need a little more coaxing out of their comfort zones. Actually, it's funny, talk about differences. There's actually so many similarities.
Right.
I think the similarities are actually more interesting. I'll tell you why, because you see a brand new group of international tourists and they've never met each other before and they're studying at the same school together and they've just met, they've just come from all around the world. They don't know each other. So we realised that our job over that weekend was to help break down barriers, get people to know each other better. And by the end of it, they're all high-fiving and they're all best friends. And we're like, okay, there's some magic in this. How is that similar to the workplace? You know, because you've got people that work together, never spent any social time together, or they don't know anything about their colleagues besides, oh, cool, you know, how was your bus trip in today? Yeah, good, it was raining, and right, okay, cool.
What are you doing on the weekend?
Yeah, you know, like, and both my business partner and I, now ex-business partner, have both worked in corporate, and we knew the insignificance of small talk, you know, and it was just like, we're always sort of searching for more with our, you know, and wanting to build those relationships in the workplace. And so we saw this as, an opportunity to share Banana Life with corporate businesses, yeah.
So the method that you use for international tourists is essentially the same method that you use for a corporate?
I think in terms of, I guess like setting an objective for the weekend and then looking to achieve that objective, that was probably one of our biggest things. And I guess that's also why we didn't continue in tourism, is because we had a lot more to give. You know, we didn't just want to be sharing these ideas and our structures and our processes with tourists anymore. We saw a much bigger need and value in corporate Australia, essentially.
Yeah, and just for me coming out of corporate, I completely understand that there is a need for it.
Yeah.
And even the other week, one of my friends has a fitness blog and she was writing about an article, I play golf socially.
Yeah.
And she posted it. And then as a result, 5 people that I'd worked with on the same floor were like, hey, I play golf too. Why don't we all play around?
Yeah.
We've been working on the same floor for years. And it was one article that, you know, which if we had like some kind of event where we all hung out and got to chat to each other outside of being on the computers and responding to emails, we would have found that out. So what do you think's great about team building? I know sometimes it can get a bad rap.
Yeah.
People roll their eyes when they hear the word. They think collective hugs and...
Yeah. I love that fact that people think team building is like a dirty word to a lot of people, you know, and they roll their eyes at it, and I see that as probably the biggest challenge, but it sort of keeps us here every day as well, because when we're able to cut through that and just completely exceed people's expectations about team building, they suddenly go, oh my God, that was the best thing we've ever done, and our team is just feeling so much more connected. Actually, only yesterday I reached out to someone that we worked with in airlines, and he said, you know, our activity with you was 3 months ago now, and we were just talking about today how that day was so valuable to us because everyone is just more connected and people are working better across the teams, and they felt like it kicked off from that day. I guess one of the challenges in team building is because we don't measure, you know, beforehand, we don't do surveys like organisational psychologists do. We're not really able to see that quantitative data. But, you know, getting feedback like that saying that day has kicked off so much, you know, development in the relationships between all our team members. I'm just like, that's great. That's awesome. Cool. We'll see you in 6 months' time. Also, you know, or whenever we need to again.
So that's really cool. You talk about kickstarting a team and their growth. Have you ever worked with teams that are in conflict? You've known that beforehand and they're sort of just reaching out. They want a lifeline, essentially. Like, Andy, our team needs help.
Yeah.
Let's go to the beach and play some games. Like, do you get that often?
Yeah. Interestingly, we've had a couple of those, probably 3 of those requests in the last, let's say, month. And they say... great, we'd like to do raft building or some beach activities up at this location. And I'm like, okay, cool. So we go through our discovery process with them, which is very much asking as many questions as we can about their team and the history and what they've done together, tell us about the group. And then we start uncovering, that they've got people that have, for example, they've all worked together for 20 plus years. They're a small team of 8. There's been a lot of conflict in the past. Last year they didn't do team building. They got a psychologist in to come and, help them out. And this year they want to go and do some fun activities to lighten the mood. And I'm like, okay, right. So, okay, well, then you sort of pitch what your solution is, and in reality, you're not even going to try to promise to fix anything in that couple of hours, but what you can give them is a lighthearted experience to remind them that they are human and that they can laugh together and they can have fun together. And that's what we're pitching for this next group. So we'll see how that one goes.
Yeah, that's a bit tough, isn't it?
But yeah, we've definitely worked with groups before that have come in as troublesome, and that might come from the HR manager or the person that's organising the activity and say, look, this is going to be a tough group. And we see it. Mm-hmm. We see it. There's no way to hide it, essentially, because we still have to facilitate the activity. And like all good facilitators, you have to read the room. You have to really pay attention to what's happening. And if you see circumstances unfolding in front of you, you've got to address them. And we've had some hairy situations in the past. And basically, what can you do but control the situation and then go back at the end and then send your report to the HR manager and say, right, this is what you need to work on, or these are our recommendations. Yeah, so, these are our observations, essentially. Yeah.
Fantastic. Before you talked about the qualitative data that you get, so you get really great verbal feedback, but sometimes it's difficult to measure. Is there any way to look at return on investment for companies? Like, how do you persuade them it's a good idea?
That's great. Well, this is diving into our sales pitch, I suppose. But I guess convincing them it's a good idea. I think a lot of it is in the discovery process, is figuring out what do they want to get out of it. Now, every sort of fourth person that calls will say, "Oh, just team building. We're just looking for team building." You go, "Okay, cool, right." So, what? Okay, so you want team building. So, what do you actually want to get out of it, though? Like, tell me about the group now. What are the relationships like? Is it a new group? Have they all worked together for a long time? Is it senior leaders? Or, tell us a bit more. And then from there, we can figure out that, hey, perhaps they've had a lot of turnover in the last 6 months, and it's actually about making sure that these 4 people that have just joined up feel part of the team again. Or maybe they've relaunched, or they want to get everybody on the same page and do some vision planning for the year, and that's what's this team building activity needs to support. So, that's how we dive in.
Using your questions. And I think at the beginning of the show, we talked about the bad rap that team building has, but at the same time, it's got such a strong brand because people are calling you just asking for it, which is really interesting.
It's really interesting, and it sort of doesn't sit right with me some of the time, to be honest. Yeah, I can be honest here, I guess, because people say, "Oh, we just want team building," and you go, "Okay, let's just give them team building, whatever that is to them." And that sort of goes back to this idea that people have this idea or preconceived idea of what team building actually is. And I find that fascinating, because going to play around a putt-putt is team building to some people. Going to, shout around a beers down at the pub, that's team building to a lot of other companies. It is. And like sometimes our competitors in the market are, a putt-putt area or, a bowling company. Whereas really what you need is skilled facilitators who are able to offer structured games and activities that essentially help people work towards a common goal. And I guess that's where, going back to your question about convincing people of ROI, it's like, great, well, for this price, you can go and do lawn bowls, really, $40 a head or, plus a pizza. But for this rate, what you're actually getting is an activity that is tailored towards, or in line with your strategic direction, or in line with some upcoming training, or, you're pulling people all around Australia to sit them all in a conference room. Let's do team building that relates to why you're there in the first place. Or we can just have fun, but that's we'll fulfill the fun part when we need to. And that's always fun, of course. But if we can, I guess I'm sort of calling out for people to just share with us, and we feel like we're in a really privileged situation in a lot of the time because people tell us, the inside gossip about the office and say, oh yeah, actually this is what's going on. And we say, okay, cool. How can we take that and design that into this program?
Yeah, awesome. It's interesting you brought up that call about asking for team building. I had a guest on the podcast in one of the early episodes, and he even said sometimes a facilitator is an entertainer.
Right.
And that was a really interesting topic, and I think it could be quite divisive for some people that are listening in, thinking, well, I'm not just this gopher in the front of a room that's going to sing and dance. I actually am here to drive an outcome. But sometimes I'm a bit kind of mixed because I think facilitators, you do need to have a bit of charisma and get people engaged however way you want to. And I think having fun also helps. So let's talk about team building and some crazy things that your company does.
Okay.
What is the craziest thing that you've been asked to do or that you've created as a result of someone reaching out to you?
Okay. So I guess we sort of pride ourselves and we put ourselves in a position where we're problem solvers for a lot of event planners out there, and they might have a big international client, and there's this, incentives is all about rewarding and wowing people. So I go, what ideas do you have? So one that we did at the end of last year was we did a round robin of activities, but then the finale was the teams had to choose a cabbage and decorate this cabbage and choose from a bunch of 40 sugarloaf cabbages. My van stunk. And they had to assemble and learn how to use a trebuchet, a medieval trebuchet. And we shot 12 trebuchets down into the park and shot these.
That is so cool.
Shot these cabbages about 80 metres down to the distance on this venue. Yeah.
How did you come up with those type of ideas? Where do you get your inspiration from? That's really, I've never heard of that one. I mean, I've heard of all the other ones, the scavenger hunts and all that, but that's pretty new.
Well, it's just sort of saying, much like any, event planner, like, okay, what have I seen that's really awesome? Can we do it? How can we make it better? And we get a lot of inspiration from Survivor. Dum-dum, spoiler. Lots of info from Survivor, freeze frame, winding it back, going, how do they do that? How do they build that? Can we build that? Cool. Can we increase our warehouse space and support those giant things? And so, probably the most ambitious thing we did, this was going back 3 years now, is build an 11-metre trebuchet on the beach over at Moreton Island.
Oh, my gosh, that's huge.
It was, it stood 7.5 metres, and then with the sling it went up to 11, and we shot medicine balls about 100 metres down the beach on Moreton Island. And then stage 2 of that idea was cutting them down to about 2.5 metres, which was the 12 that we built last year. So, yeah.
That must give you a lot of joy, though, when you see that, it executes and everyone's just having the time of their lives.
Yeah, and look, I guess going back to what you said about entertainment, team building is about, a lot of it is about shared experience, and then for our side of things is observing people's experience, with their colleagues and then facilitating a really memorable experience for them. Whether that's in an epic location, and Banana Life loves to work in amazing locations as we do, and often it's pretty amazing if you can set up these big weapons of mass.
I was trying to think of a pun with cabbages and destruction, but
yeah,
maybe in the shower tonight. I'll think of it.
Yeah. I guess we love ambitious ideas, and we're not afraid to try them, which is, I guess, got us a bit of credibility here in Brisbane to be the go-to. Like, do you think you can do this? And we've got some great network of event planners here in Brisbane, and they have the same attitude. Can we do this? Just say yes and figure it out. So, yeah, thankfully my dad's an engineer, so he helped us build the trebuchets.
My dad's an engineer too.
Yeah, right.
Must be something with engineers and having L&D kids. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe we see what they do.
Well, we're engineers too, just with people.
That's true. Yeah, engineering, incredible experiences.
There you go. Yeah. Appealing experiences.
Yeah. So you talked about incredible locations that you've worked in. A lot of these seem to revolve around being at the beach. What's the best sort of location that you've facilitated a team building event?
I'd say it'd have to be a beach location. We work a lot out at Tangalooma, Moreton Island, at the resort out there, and we've got a wonderful beach space that we're able to do that, and that's epic. The sunset there is amazing. Looking back on Brisbane, it's hard to leave. So we do a lot of work out there, but yeah, dare I say it, islands, Daydream Island, Hamilton Island, Stradbroke Island. Yeah, we've just worked a lot in the islands, but then we do a lot of, indoor areas as well. So up in the mountains, in the Cunningham Scap and so forth as well. So yeah, that's why like I said before, we feel pretty privileged when we're able to, one, learn a lot about people's businesses, but then accompany them on their conference to these epic destinations. We don't always get invited for dinner. That's fine, but we're still
probably pretty buggered at the end of the day, to be honest.
Exhausted, yeah. Last week, packing down a lot of equipment from some beach activities. We just, yeah.
Yeah. So how do you maintain your levels of energy when you're at these epic weekends?
Having a really reliable and enthusiastic team is really important, and I guess being a facilitator is draining, as I've heard many of your guests say on the podcast, and it just rings so true. And you sort of can't use all of your energy when you're presenting in front of the group. Either that, or you need to recharge your batteries at the end of the day or the day before, or just have a day off. And we try to limit ourselves actually to 3 events a week, and that way we know that we can give everything to one of those, because when you have a challenging group or a really big group, like a few weeks ago we did an activity for 250 people, and there's just a lot that can happen, and a lot of faces in the room that are looking for guidance, and so that just is quite draining. So just recharge, self-care.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, super important. I'm a big fan.
It's difficult when it's your own business, though, because you want to keep, I can do everything for you. But I think it's great that you've got a team around you now. Yeah. And you've also been branching out and doing some MC work, I believe.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So towards the end of last year, I got a request from one of our clients to help as part of their all-staff day and to help them facilitate ideas for a reward and recognition program across the organisation. And we sort of looked at it and said, okay, cool, how long do we have and what do we want to achieve here? And then we went about pitching to them a process of how we would go about that. And it was pretty daunting. Once again, the 200s, over in the 200s, that was 250, I think. But
big stadiums, you can't see anyone in the,
and it just, being on stage is actually really different from being out on the beach at Tangalooma with 150 people in front of you. It's really different. On the stage, you've got the lights, you can't see everybody's face, it's difficult to engage, and you're also tied to the PowerPoint slide which is behind you, and you've got it's just a very different environment emceeing. So I actually spent a lot of time last year preparing for that and just thinking about how to keep that audience engaged throughout that period. And emceeing has its, you need to use humour really well, I think, and really know your stuff. You don't want to be stumbling around on stage. No. I mean, with team building, you can get away with it in a way.
And it seems to be more interactive because you are in that environment. It feels like more of a two-way conversation, whereas on stage, it's like I can't get that instant feedback. I can't see. I can feel like it's very quiet. Everyone's looking at me. I can feel the eyes on me. Yeah.
But it's pretty exciting. I'm interested in doing some more MC work and see where that takes, either myself personally or as a business as well.
Awesome. And let's talk about some business learnings that you've had, because you've had these career pivots with the business starting from working with an international market through now to team building, corporates, all different industries. What are some, tips that you could offer to listeners that we have that are trying to start their own consulting business, going out on their own as facilitators?
I would say a couple of things. One would be the client discovery process. I spent a lot of time working out what is our sales process and how does the discovery process go into that, and what are the questions that you're going to ask that customer. And I've very much found that don't spend your time on people that are wasting your time. And that's essentially people that are just like, hey, how much does that cost? Because it means that they haven't really seen the value. They're not really interested in the outcomes. They're just looking at, a pool of money and looking for a way to spend that. If it's a really great pool of money, you might just take it. But really asking those questions and getting a really qualified lead has just been so important, because really work hard at having those conversations and just stress to them that, look, it's really important that we have a conversation before I'm able to send you a solution with a cost involved. That's probably my biggest thing. If you're not able to have those conversations, you're not able to give them the same service. And I don't know too much from a consultant's background, because we very much have off-the-shelf programs that we tailor-make for everybody. But just asking the right questions in the discovery process is the most important thing, and just figuring out how you can customize the activity to make sure you're working towards their goals. Otherwise, I think you're most likely wasting both parties' times.
Yeah, and that's good. And it's an interesting question that you use to screen people out, that question, how much will it cost? You can quickly assess what the client really wants, and so that's good. What about advice for first-time facilitators? You're probably going to have to look back a few years now to think about Andy in his early stages of facilitating these type of workshops. What kind of, resources helped you? What advice do you think you'd give your younger self?
Advice I give my younger self: be really present with the room, and use pace to your advantage and pauses. When I discovered using a pause in a presentation, it changed everything, and I think you've touched on that as well. And the more I read about presenting and watching other presenters, the power of the pause is so important. Only last week, a few days ago, we had a group, 40 people. We're in a pub. There's people everywhere. There's a bit of background noise.
Job in the world.
A lot of people say that. And it was just really difficult to get everyone's attention. So just sort of stood in front of the group. And this is a tried and tested method, but you've got to have that presence. You've got to use your eyes. You've got to be fully present with your whole body, which is, standing there with confidence and looking around the room and just being really, quiet. Obviously, you're pausing, you're not saying anything, and just waiting to get everybody's attention. Because once you've got them, then they'll listen to what you have to say. If you can't grab them from the beginning, it's going to be quite difficult to get them again.
So you just stood up in this pub and waited?
Yeah. Just make sure you're in a nice visual position and just continually scan the room with eye contact, and you're just looking, and eventually you'll see one group of 3 or 4 people that are chatting. They'll see that you're waiting. You just give them eyes and you just keep looking around till everyone's quiet. That's worked really well. And then giving myself advice from 10 years ago. This is good. The use of the rest of your body to talk. We found that a lot with team building activities. People are expecting this highly energetic, enthusiastic person. And sorry to say, a lot of the time that is us, but it doesn't have to be. You can be really calm, collected, but so long as you're engaging people with, arm gestures and movement around the room, it's just, I think that's the best advice. Just don't stand still and keep yourself, wave those arms around. Wave those arms around, everyone. That's what you need to do. Yeah.
Just on the topic of engaging people, again, this is a question that can split some of the guests I've had on the show, is some people love icebreakers, some people don't like icebreakers. Where do you stand on that, and do you have a favourite icebreaker?
I stand on the side of go for the icebreaker.
I thought you would.
Why? Because it's cheesy and it's cliche, and that's what team building's all about, really. No, but I've got a really great icebreaker which I'd love to share with everyone, and I challenge you to test it because I've tested it firstly on a group of 10 and then on a group of 150 and recently 250, and it creates this energy and excitement in the room, which is where you want them to be for a Banana Life team building activity. Maybe not for your workshop, but it's called story time. You pair up with somebody next to you, and one person is going to start the story. It's like an improv game with, let me tell you a story. So the other day I woke up and, I reached over and, smashed the alarm clock down. The other person you pair, they're giving you a word, any word, a random word, every sort of third heartbeat, just sort of banana, rainbow, automobile, cafe. And your job is to continue telling your story, use that word, and continue that story. So keep the story going. So you go for about 60 seconds. And the idea is that you don't want people to put any filters in. The idea is for people to just think creatively, say the first thing that comes to mind, and just be really random with their thoughts. And you'll be surprised what people say. And I generally like to start the room with say, look, I've just met you, but this is a safe space, right? This is a safe space. We can say what we want. We can say what's in our minds. Okay, cool, great. Well, I'm gonna start off with something called story time. I'm going to demonstrate it with a partner or volunteer, and then get everyone to do that back. So yeah, run the activity for 60 seconds, maybe a little bit longer. I suggest you walk around the room and just sort of listen in and see how people are going. Stop the room, and then switch it over. So the person that's now telling the story, that was telling the story, is now giving them words.
So they're going to be really mean to the person.
Yeah,
mean to them.
And like it just, we film a lot of these icebreakers because it just like the energy lifts, everyone's smiling and just like hands in their mouth, just rolling over in laughter at, how absurd their teammates are, essentially. Yeah, it's a good one.
Just on that note of filming, actually, because today I've got a conference I'm emceeing in a few weeks, and they wanted like a video about me and just about the conference, so I filmed that this morning and shot it off to them, and I thought, gosh, that's such a good idea. So like, do you use video film the icebreakers, film some of the conference and send back through like an edited highlights reel? How do you use video?
So we use video. We actually get a lot of our team building activities professionally shot and edited, and that serves two purposes. One, we embed those in our proposals, and two, it shows that team building is not all cheesy and eye rolling, and we're out on a mission to change that, because people constantly be like, why spend your money on team building? It's going to be cheesy. We've done it all before. We've done the slingshot thing, and we've done the
horse riding,
trust fall, and the horse riding, whatever it is. Yeah, so we just film and say, yeah, this is what it looks like. This is how it feels. These are the people's reactions in there, and that's a really great sales tool for us. The other way we use video is we send a personal video message across to every proposal that we send out. That sort of just talks about what our recommendations are based on our discovery call, and which of our programs we think is going to suit best, and what their expectations should be as we move forward. Yeah, so it's just a really nice personal touch moving forward, so people know that we're not just, taking things off the shelf and dishing it to everyone.
And just,
because we think that's really important. And I think the way that video is moving is it's got to be personalised, and sets us apart from everybody else.
And we've got the best technology to back that up nowadays, so it's not too tricky, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
And that too, we also work in some very epic, appealing destinations. So it's really great to film these and send them back to people and be like, check out what you did. Look where we were. Look at these things fly through the air. And I think it's great to celebrate that.
Andy, congratulations on all that you do and on your mission to rebrand those words, team building. I think you're doing an epic job. And
thanks.
If people want to see what you do, watch some of the videos, where can they go?
Sure. Just search Banana Life, 2 words, on YouTube. don't be surprised at what else pops up when you type in Banana Life, but maybe Banana Life Team Building or Banana Life Brisbane. You can check out our website, bananalife.com.au, and you can check out most of our videos on there, or please do connect with me on LinkedIn also.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge that you've gained over the last sort of decade, and all the best in the future.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for tuning in to First Time Facilitator. If you liked the episode, please share it with your mates or subscribe to the podcast feed in iTunes. Till next time,